Hey guys. Okay, today I want to talk about gringo pricing. Watch enough YouTube videos and spend enough time on expat Facebook groups, and it won't take you long to run into the concept of gringo pricing and how to avoid it. The idea is that as a foreigner, you're likely going to be charged about 10 to 20% more for things than your Mexican neighbors will be. As expats, we're pretty good at warning each other about gringo pricing, about market sellers who might overcharge you for avocados, or landlords who will jack up the rent as soon as they hear your accent. And we do a great job of encouraging one another to be vigilant. There are all kinds of ways to avoid being overcharged, and you should definitely be smart. Maybe it's universal or maybe it's cultural, but if there's one thing we expats hate, it's being overcharged for things. We don't like feeling taken advantage of, we don't want to be cheated or lied to or tricked or scammed. We are very concerned about this happening to us. And I think we don't like feeling stupid. And when you're living in a country where you don't know the culture, you might not be so great at the language, there are so many opportunities for you to feel stupid. And so I think we expend a lot of energy and sometimes make ourselves a little bit crazy in the attempts of avoiding that feeling. Now, of course, there are more than enough expats who don't want to assimilate, but I think by and large, most of us do. We want to fit in. We moved to Mexico to live in Mexico. We want to feel like we're part of the community. We want to blend in. We want to live like locals. We want to be treated the same as everybody else. No one wants to be the idiot gringo who doesn't know anything and doesn't know what things should cost and gets taken advantage of. And it's a point of pride for a lot of us expats who can pay the least for things, who can avoid the gringo tax, who can blend in the best, who can be treated like a real Mexican. I think sometimes we equate it with respect, and we see falling for gringo prices as this indicator that you are a newbie, that you don't know what you're doing, maybe you don't have enough experience as a traveler, that you're naive and stupid. And it's funny, Jesse and I were talking about this morning, and one of the things that he said was like, yeah, what's one of the things we are best at as Americans? Buying things, shopping for things. Finding deals is a skill that many of us work on and are quite proud of our ability to negotiate a deal, to find a good price. And so to fail at that is embarrassing, awkward, and it kind of grates against us. But today I wanted to dig in a little bit deeper to this concept of gringo pricing. The basic premise of gringo pricing is that when you come to Mexico from Canada or the United States, you look like money. And a lot of us do not come from wealthy families in the United States, and we don't feel like we're very rich. We don't feel like we should look like we have money because we don't feel like we've got a lot of money. We don't feel like rich people who can just afford to pay more than everybody else. And if you're in the US, you might not be rich. I mean, maybe you are, I don't know. If you are rich, I am thinking of starting a Patreon, so hold that thought. To be considered the 1% of wage earners in the United States, you have to earn more than something like $420,000. But on a global scale, to be considered in the top 1% of wage earners, you just have to earn more than about $32,000 a year. People in the US or from the US often don't feel rich because we're comparing ourselves to the top 1% in our country. But if you make more than $32,400, you are the 1% on a global scale. The median income in the United States is, depending on what numbers you look at, somewhere around $60,000 a year. The median income in Mexico is about $15,000 a year. What that means is I come from a country where the median income is 4 times as much as the median income in the country in which I am currently living. So what I've been thinking about since getting to Mexico last summer is, how fair is it for me to complain about Gringo pricing if I'm not also willing to complain about global income inequality? Is it fair for me to focus on saving 50 pesos at the market when I come from one of the wealthiest countries on the planet? Why do we spend so much time trying to make sure that we don't pay more than our Mexican neighbors when chances are very, very good that we make a considerable amount more than our Mexican neighbors? And is it really unfair that we pay 10% more? Can we really not afford that? And you could argue it's not about the money, it's the principle. Cheating someone out of money or charging more for something than it's really worth, it's dishonest. It's just ethically wrong. And okay, and it should be said that just because Gringo pricing does exist and does happen does not mean that every Mexican that you interact with is going to be trying to charge you more for something. I remember one day when we had first moved to Guanajuato, before I was taking Spanish lessons, I was trying to buy a water at a shop. And I misheard the number. I thought the woman said 40 pesos when she had said 14 pesos. So I hand her two 20 peso bills. And she just said, no. Hands me back one of the 20s and then gives me my 6 pesos change for the water. I was chatting with a subscriber one day and she said she had misheard a number at a bakery and tried to pay 300 pesos for a 30 peso order, and the shopkeeper wouldn't let her, just corrected the mistake, gave back the money, and that happens all the time. It's funny because I've seen dozens and dozens of posts about how to avoid Gringo pricing, but this is a side of it that I don't see talked about very often. All the times when it would be so easy for someone to take advantage of us and they just didn't. Now look, I don't want to be charged more than my neighbors are charged. I don't want to spend more money just because I come from the United States. But I'm not so convinced that it's morally wrong. Or if it is, then I have to say, I think it's more morally wrong the way money is so vastly unequally distributed across the globe. I was born in a wealthy country. I may not have been born to a wealthy family, but I was born in a wealthy country, and that has given me privileges and opportunities that other people did not have. Is that fair? My daughter has advantages that other children don't have simply because of where she was born and how much money her parents have. Is that fair? Compared to other kids in the US, she's nowhere near the top on the privilege scale, but on a global scale, yeah. So I'm not advocating for you to be naive. And if you've watched my other videos, you know that I'm not saying that all Mexicans are poor or playing into that stereotype. But maybe we can also consider the financial context that we step into when we move away from the United States and into another country. Maybe we can be sensitive to our position on the global wealth scale. And maybe, just maybe, we could afford an extra 10%. Thanks for watching, guys. I can't wait to chat with you about this in the comments, and I'll see you next time. Bye.